It is the final day of the Africa and Global South Water and Sanitation Dialogue taking place in Kempton Park. Various stakeholders from the country and the continent sharing innovation and policy reforms. In fact, today, Gauteng is expected to address the dialogue as it concludes. Newzroom Afrika's Nqobile Madlala is there for us. And Nqobile, one can only imagine that our province, Gauteng, has a lot to learn from a dialogue of this nature when we think about the challenges as far as our water infrastructure and our provision are concerned.
Well, definitely, Michelle. In fact, if you look at the fact that Gauteng has been battling typhoid, as well as the fact that they've been battling cholera, will tell you that sanitation is very much important. And whilst those investigations are still ongoing, as we heard from Machalis a little earlier on, we know that these are some of the issues that they need to look at, as well as the infrastructure. There's always concerns around what happens on the ground, what people see with regards to the leaks. And we have over 40% leakage, which is water that is unaccounted for. However, here we've got about 13 countries that are looking at how water and sanitation affect people in general. We know that women actually spent millions of hours globally just collecting water, and that's a major issue. So I want to bring in now my guest just to speak to us about the water in general, because you get to not only look at South Africa, but you get to look at the continent. But let's start with South Africa, the prevalent issues that you as the Commission have looked at and that you need basically addressed.
Thank you very much, Nqobile. I think it's very important that we acknowledge the challenge of sanitation in South Africa, and it's a global challenge. Remember that the world over, we utilize potable water to convey waste, sewage. And with a growing population, with climate change, declining availability of this finite resource, we need to have more done in that regard. So as the Water Research Commission and our partners globally, we have pioneered and we are leading globally with India and China around water efficient sanitation services. Basically, that is making sure that people still receive dignified, safe sanitation, and that will have less water to use, where the waste of itself can be utilized for other commercial benefits, such as conditioning the soil in the form of fertilizers or using it for biochar for fuel. We do not have the luxury anymore to be looking at people not having that safe sanitation. It's a human right issue, it is a health issue, and that is key in works that we are doing. We also recognize that water development, for example, of groundwater, can be impacted, especially in rural areas in South Africa and Africa and other areas, parts of India and China, where the groundwater can be impacted by negative quality impacts from these pit latrines, and therefore we are saying we need to do better in the sanitation space.
Is this, if you look at Gauteng, because this is where you're hosting what's taking place currently, would you say Gauteng is there yet?
It's not yet there. Gauteng is even much more challenged when you're looking at the mushrooming of informal settlements, because by the constitution they have to be serviced in terms of provision of water as well as provision of sanitation. And one of the key areas I always personally worry about is where these areas are mushrooming. I mean, some of them are in the floodplains. That's already a disaster waiting to happen. But now when you have to provide for them sanitation, when they are settling in areas that are outside the normal infrastructure, the major infrastructure, it means that something has to be done. And in that case, we are saying these packaged plants that are very advanced, that provide dignity and that are safe even for children, needs to be the options. And we have done that in terms of policy. The department has made a regulation within the water services space. You cannot have a development if the wastewater treatment works, for example, does not have enough capacity to treat the sewage. So that's very important.
Jennifer Mlatte, thank you very much for speaking to us. That is from the Water Research Commission. But I want to bring in the department, because obviously what Jennifer is relaying is the issues that the department must now receive in a final report that is going to be coming out of this global speaks dialogue, really. Can you give us details as the department what you're willing to do now?
We are very pleased that our entities under their umbrella body called the Association of Water and Sanitation Institutes for South Africa, they brought the Global South here so that they foster new opportunities for collaboration, partnership. You could see their experts here, academia, various business organizations, private sector, strategic water users, and our partners globally and international organizations. This will fit in very nicely now. Remember, the country has produced what we call it South Africa's Water Security and Water and Sanitation Reliability Plan. When we hosted the Water Indaba, followed by the Africa investment, because we needed the investment for that we can do these things. But right now, one of the biggest takeaway we'll have, the implementation model to be able to help municipalities in South Africa and beyond our borders, where you can use the water boards, you can use the private sector in terms of concession, build, own, operate, train and transfer, like I was opening one for Ivan Plants yesterday. But then there's a funding mechanism, because where will the money come from? Firstly, the discipline on traditional financing from rates and taxes, from the sale of water and electricity, you ring-fence it, you manage it very well. Then look at blended finance, then you look at wholesome private sector financing. And then the other issue that I was pleased was to see young people, they were here, and various organizations. The question of building water and sanitation and climate resilient communities, where you leave nobody behind, issues around the relationship between water and sanitation and people has to change, issues around vandalism, illegal connections, issues of water use efficiency, but indigenous knowledge system that must be dealt with. And more importantly, then there are these technical groups around just the idea of infrastructure management in terms of planning, in terms of design, execution, and within budgets.
So are we then winning the fight?
It's going to be an overhaul. It's not going to be easy. The targets are very steep. We're behind schedule. We still have about 10% in terms of SDGs to arrive at 100% access to water infrastructure. But our problems of reliability, it has gone down to 67%. We have to fix the leaks and do these things. We have to be able to inform communities what our plan and challenges, because if we don't communicate, the frustration will grow.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Deputy of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, just giving us details, Michelle, around how the department is going to deal with these issues that are already prevalent in this country, but how this specific conference is going to help with that.
As always, Nqobile, the hope is that an event like this is not merely a talk shop. Nqobile Madlala, live to us there in Gauteng.